A lot of virtual assistants leave if they don't know if you are stable or not, because they also need to, feed their families, or a lot of them have extended families that are relying on them as well. But one thing we could do is manage that process rather than doing it. If you manage it, it pulls yourself out. It allows you to work on more deals. It allows you to check out more properties, close more, listings, etc., while someone else is doing the tedious day-to-day work. If you're doing $10 an hour tasks, you'll have a $10 an hour bank account. So that's a good way to look at that.
If you have found your way here, you are a real estate pro who's ready to transition from chasing leads to getting dream clients to chase you. This podcast is where you will learn the business and systems strategies you need to grow your real estate business so that you can get paid consistently, connect with dream clients, and keep your sanity. Welcome back to the Market Authority Show. I'm your host, Stephanie Lugo, and today I am joined by Bob Lachance with Reva Global. Bob, thanks so much for joining me today.
Stephanie, thanks for having me. I know you and I have crossed paths many times, so it's it's a pleasure for me to be on your podcast.
Well, I have to compliment you and your team, because I can be a little squirrely, and especially during the summer when I've got kids and vacations and stuff going on. And your team has been hounding me for a couple of weeks. I'm like, let's make this happen. This is going to be a great conversation. And I'm like, I know, I just have to get it down. So I am so glad that we were able to have our schedules align and for you to be here on the show. My audience is always wondering about virtual assistants, delegation, just whatever they need to continue growing their real estate business strategically. So I think that you're going to have so much to offer during that conversation. So truly, the pleasure is all mine. Would you start by sharing a little bit about your journey and where you are today? And then we'll get into a little bit of the specifics.
Sure. So I'll without boring anybody, I'll just give a 2-second rundown. I've been in this business for 20 years. Prior to that, so I started in 2004. So you can obviously tell how old I am with a couple of white patches on my beard and on the side of my hair, but that's okay. I started back in 2004, but prior to that, played professional hockey for 8 years, and then decided that I didn't want to finish my degree. I left 2 classes short of getting my degree, so it was either go back to school or join an industry that did not have any barriers of entry, which obviously we all know real estate is a perfect industry for individuals like myself who did not need a piece of paper to get a job. So started in 2004 as an investor. My first deal was a rehab deal. And how I got that one, a lot of stuff, what you teach, I know you teach a lot on a referral basis, but back in the day, the business was different. So I would get in my car and I would drive around neighborhoods and look for properties that were beat up. So I made an offer on this one property and ended up accepting my offer. It was $40,000 less than it was listed for. And again, I didn't know anything about real estate. So ended up doing a pretty good job on the rehab. Had to find investor. I had to find someone to fix it up, contractors back in the day, and also mortgage companies, which was a lot easier to fund out deals back then. And then ended up selling it. I did an open house myself. Had a bunch of real estate agents come in. I was not licensed at the time. I got licensed back in 2005. So I didn't. Again, I'm trying to find my way. Finally found my way, and but I also realized a lot of things that you teach today. I had nothing. I had no systems. I had no processes. I had no network. I had nothing, no referral bases, anything like that. So I did join our local real estate investment group here in Connecticut, so CT REIA. And then I saw a speaker speak on pre-foreclosures and short sales. So at that time, now I was no longer a rehabber. I was a short sale person. So I jumped in the short sale world. And then I met my business partner back in the day. This is, again, 2004. Ended up doing, I think we're probably over 1,500 short sale transactions, to date. Fast forward, probably done, 2,000-3,000 deals, from anything from real estate agent work to investing work to buying and holding, selling those doors, etc. And also within that time, I helped start a couple of real estate education programs and started a virtual assistant company. And today, I don't do anything on the education side, but I do have my virtual assistant company and a real estate investment company with my license as well. So I know that's a lot to unpack, but I figured I'd throw it all out.
Well, it's been a journey for you.
Yep.
One thing that I want to know is what about that journey of selling that many units over time led you to be like, there's a major gap in the market when it comes to VA and having that great placement for someone who can take that work. Where was that gap for you?
Yep. So when I was doing a lot of stuff in real estate education, like I helped start a real estate coaching program. We had 50% were probably agents, 50% were investors, but there was a common theme out there, and what we all deal with on a daily basis. It was many individuals want to get their time back. So I was looking for any type of product, any type of service. This is going back all the way from 2007 to when I first launched my VA company back in 2014. I was looking for a product or a service that could help give people their time back. I read 4-Hour Work Week, all that stuff. I still didn't understand it, right? Until I hired my first virtual assistant. And this is back in 2013. And then a light bulb went on because, after talking to so many students, probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 students, everyone had the same challenge. And it was, we needed more time. I mean, you look at what we do on the real estate investing side and the real estate agent side, it's a lot of, we talked a little bit about this, your virtual assistant, it's now you name it a fulfillment manager, your virtual assistant, right? With, marketing, you got automation, you got, CRM management, data entry, et cetera, et cetera. So I realized a lot of it also was the tasks that really beat people up. And it beat me up because I was on the phone. Like I door knocked when I first started. I door knocked for a year straight after I did my first rehab. Then I door knocked. And then I would go home, skip trace those same people I door knocked, and then I would call for a couple hours a night. So, you keep doing this over and over and over, you get beat up, you get tired, and you want to quit. So that's what I find, not only in my own business, but I found that, all of our students were going through the same challenges. So that's the reason why I actually started a virtual assistant company. And I didn't know it was going to be profitable at the beginning. I tested it for 2 years, and then I'm like, all right, this could be something. So I spent 50% of my time on the virtual assistant company, 50% of that time on my investment company. Now, as you know, as you grow, you could focus more of your time on building your businesses rather than in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. What were some of like the early experiences that you had with your first placements? So your first recruiting and then being able to match those up with real estate agents who needed their specific skills.
Yep. Well, at the beginning, when I first, I went on my own to go get my own virtual assistant. And that's one of the other reasons why I realized that the process was challenging, because I probably went through, I don't know, 100 plus resumes, and I just had to keep sifting through them. And then I would have to set up times to actually get on interviews. Before you know it, I'm 10, 20, 30 hours into it. I interview 5 people. I pick one. After a week, put a bunch of time and energy into it, and the virtual assistant leaves. I'm like, oh.
So how do you explain that? Because I think that's actually a huge fear for a lot of agents who know that no matter what, even if you do have a placement firm, there's going to be time in onboarding somebody. What contributes to them leaving right away?
What contributes is obviously what we offer them. So for us as a company, we pay for their health insurance. We have a lot of benefits behind the scenes, and we have a very, very stable company. So a lot of virtual assistants leave if they don't know if you're stable or not, because they also need to, feed their families, or a lot of them have extended families that are relying on them as well. And a lot of them are job hopping. So you have to be very, very careful when they don't work for an organization and they're independent, that they job hop. That's one of the things. If you're going to look for your own VA, and I know I have a company, but I always give this advice: if it fits within what you're looking for, you could always find them. But look for how long they stay with a certain client. You always look to see if they're job hoppers, because that's a very, very big red flag that you have to look at.
Yeah, that makes sense. So walk me through like some of the really good things that you did in the beginning with your first hires, and then some things that you should have done differently.
Yeah. So right now, what I do different now is we do predictive index, right? We do disc profile and predictive index. So just to give you a little of how I did it at the beginning, I would just listen to someone and say, yep, they're a great fit. Do they have any experience in real estate, which has zero bearing on whether they're going to be good for you or not, right? Or for me or not. Now, fast forward, I would just listen to voice and just get the feeling of it, but that's not the best way to hire. I've made so many mistakes hiring, United States people by using that formula. It's not a good formula. So now what we do is we have a whole vetting process. All of my virtual assistants are out of the Philippines. So we have a sourcing team, a recruiting team, and then as soon as they pass the profiling up front, where we do disc profiling and predictive index profiling, then they get into training. So once they get into training, they last about 3 to 4 weeks. Then they do a test, and if they pass, then they go to our placements team. And our placements team is kind of like Match.com, where, to your point, they look at the actual profile of the virtual assistant, what they're very good at, and then they match them up with what the tasks of our clients want. Like you went through this whole same process. We did the same thing with you. So then in the end, it gives you a high level of ability to pick the exact match that you want. So that's why the success rate is so high with us.
What are you looking for in for example, the DISC assessment? What's a marker for someone who might be really well suited to it?
Yeah, I mean, without getting into exactly what DISC is, we look at, if you're looking for someone on the phone, you want a high D, high I, right?
Okay.
So that has to do with someone who's more interactive, more outgoing. So if you're looking for a bookkeeper, do not get someone with a high I and high D. You want someone with a high S and high C, because they're very, compliant, very attention to detail, etc. So it's very, very important. I never, back in the day, it's kind of funny. It's the older we get, we understand, and the more business that we do, we kind of understand this. But when I first started, for me, I really did. I'm like, oh, this doesn't work. This is kind of, what? It's just a waste of time, etc. But it's very, very important. So you don't need to be an expert at it. Just know that, if you want someone that's more on the verbal side, setting appointments, cold calling, etc., you want someone with a high D and high I.
So something that you're pointing out through this conversation that I'm noticing is it helps to understand the role that you're hiring for, right? And that's something that I work with real estate agents a lot, is understanding the different systems and pieces of their business that they need to have structurally in place so that they can put someone into that. Can you speak a little bit to that and where you think real estate agents need to be spending the most time setting their businesses up before making a hire?
Absolutely. So, and I know every agent's on a different level, right? You
Yeah.
have agents that come that are newer. You have agents that come that are looking to build a team. You have agents that are, that are very seasoned. So you have to look at your business and see where the biggest pain points are. So if your biggest pain and where your energy is getting sapped, because that's very important. And again, I'm going through experience. I'm telling you a story through experience, because I got beat up because I was on the phone all the time.
Yeah.
And I realized that, if you're nurturing, you're following up, you're doing outbound calls, it's very, very tiring because you're really prospecting. That's the prospect side of it. Where I realized that the best use of my time was on the closing side. Once I had those leads come in, that's when I'm getting on the phone. Whether it's buyers or sellers, it's kind of the same concept, right? You are then closing. So our jobs as real estate professionals should be to close. It's not to waste all of our energy up front getting the leads into your pipeline. It's our job to be closing. And this is what I found. I don't know, Stephanie, if you found the same thing through the years that you've been doing what you do. That's what I found. And, look throughout the years, and if you experience the same thing, we're on the same page.
Well, I think that, and especially today, right? There's so much that can go into having a successful business, between the lead generation and prospecting, the marketing, the client fulfillment, everything in between. And that's not even getting into the compliance stuff and your broker requirements, or negotiating an offer, scheduling showings. There's so much that seems incredibly urgent and important. And it can be really challenging for real estate agents to understand what's actually like the revenue producing and the non-revenue producing. And I just had this experience with an agent who I've been coaching for a while, and she and I are working more on a one-on-one basis now. And she has seen exponential growth to her business this year, which is very exciting. But the things that really light her up are things like the transaction management and the tinkering and some of the systems building. which a lot of real estate agents love. Like, we are entrepreneurs. We love the process of building a business. And now that she's hit this threshold of hitting her revenue goals that has been wanting to hit for so long, she recognizes this summer that she needs to make a hire through Reva. So she goes through Reva, she gets a VA in place, and she's just blown away at first, like having an amazing experience just in the beginning stages of delegation. Like, wow, look at all this time that I'm getting back. And one of the last pieces that she was so not looking forward to giving up was the transaction management side, because in her mind, it's not that big of a deal. She's really good at the paperwork. She loves the paperwork. She loves ticking things off of a list.
Yeah.
But as soon as she really delegated that and got it off her plate, she then realized how much time and energy that was taking away from her ability to lead generate.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to actually go through the process to understand why that's such a big deal. It's not even the luxury of having your time back. It's the luxury of being able to continue growing your business without burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, a lot of it's peace of mind too. Like you said, it's, we all feel, and we probably are right, that no one could do our job better than us, right?
Yeah.
And I would definitely, it's funny. So I can't argue that, because if we're experts in our field, we're experts. However, what I can argue is if someone could do it 80% as good as we do it, then you got to get it off your plate, because you will make more money, and you will, whatever your end goal is. I mean, obviously we look at us, we're in real estate. Like you said, we're entrepreneurs, and we're all for profit. So we have to look at how we make more of ourselves. So if it's bringing on a virtual assistant that does those tasks 80% as good as we do it, that's a huge win. And again, this is something for me I fought with at the beginning, right? And this is something that I know you and I know a lot of the stuff that a lot of our clients felt the same exact way. And then they had their virtual assistant for a number of months, and they say, wow, now I understand what you're talking about delegating those things. Because when you look at anything that we do, especially you talked about a little bit about transaction coordinating, there's a lot of back and forth, right? Where what takes you away from your money making activities. Transaction coordinating does not put more money in your pocket, right? It is task driven. It does make you feel good because you check the box, it does make us feel very good. But one thing we could do is manage that process rather than doing it. If you manage it, it pulls yourself out. It allows you to work on more deals. It allows you to check out more properties, close more, listings, etc., while someone else is doing the tedious day-to-day work.
Why do you think that so many agents, even agents who are super profitable, are so resistant to that at the beginning?
It's control. A lot of it is control, right? And hey, I went through the same thing. I know you've gone through the same thing. It's letting go. It's letting go from something that you just feel, again, that nobody does it better than you, or that you feel like if you give up control, your deal won't close, right? Especially in real estate, because we want to make sure that every one of our deals closes, because if it doesn't, obviously we don't get paid. We're not on a 9 to 5. So I think it's the thing for me that I found, it's a control factor of making sure that every piece of the puzzle gets put in place without giving up, a portion of that control.
That makes sense. So what are some tools that you would suggest to real estate agents, whether it's a mindset shift or maybe specific tactics that they can do as they're going through their first hire with a VA to kind of relinquish control?
Yeah, what I would look at is, I would kind of separate your company up front, or your businesses in different categories or departments, if you will, because you have marketing and branding. We all need our face out there. So one of the things we have to look at, what are we doing anything, or are we not doing anything? If we're not doing anything, we have to say, okay, how do we automate where my face is going to be branded somewhere, whether it's social media, whether it's posting, etc. Right? That's what I would look at first, because virtual assistants are fantastic at continuing to brand our business. So I do no branding at all. I'll use this podcast as a perfect example. So that's something, your agents could do. They could do podcasts with you, or they could do podcasts with somebody else and have a virtual assistant cut it up and then post it on social media. So now you're going to be all over the place. That's just a very simple way to do it. And they don't have, nobody has to run their own podcast. They could be guests on podcasts. That's one example. Another example could be just taking your camera and doing a walkthrough, an open house, and walking around and documenting everything and post that. Your virtual assistant could then use that as a perfect way to brand your business.
Bob, I actually have a great example of that too, because the agent that I was speaking about earlier had her VA really leaning into some of the marketing aspects. And I was looking at some of her reels on Instagram, my agents, and I was like, wow, this is really good. Like, honestly, this content is fire. What are you doing? And she said, okay, well, all I'm doing is just videoing myself around all day. And then as I have specific ideas for the videos, I take the video clips and put them into the Drive folder. And I name the folder the content topic that I want it to be. And then during our content meeting, I just give my VA the directions on how I want it compiled. Mm-hmm. She puts it together using whatever app she's using and then sends me the raw file to post. And I said, but was she that good, like, to start? And she said, absolutely not. But it took a little bit of just like coaching and giving her direction, and just that little bit of time of setting her up for success, like, nailed it for her.
And sometimes done is better than perfect, right? That's exactly. 80%. If you don't start now, it's, you could look at it and say 2 years, you still haven't started, like, oh, I should have started. It's kind of like when, you see some of your agents start building their portfolio of investment properties. Mm-hmm. I could go back and say, I wish I would have done this back in 2010 when property values were 25% of what they are now. But instead, I start today. Same kind of concept. Just, you got to start. That's the only advice I would give.
Okay, so what are the first steps to starting? Let's say an agent is like, cool, let's do this. What do I need to do?
Yeah, you can reach out to our team. We have a strategy session, I know, through one of the links that you provide as well. So you'll post one of the links and just set up a strategy session with our team. And they can walk you through exactly what you're looking for, and they'll ask you the type of questions of what you're looking for. Here's one recommendation I'd give. Like we already talked a little bit about this, just know an idea of what you want to accomplish. Know what the end result is, right? If it's prospecting, if it's marketing, if it's, property research, if it's helping with listing presentations, if it's setting appointments, if it's bookkeeping, just know up front what you're looking to accomplish. What that does, that allows us as a team to find the best fit for you to make sure that you are very successful, because our job is to make sure that you're successful, because if you're successful, then everyone's successful, right? If you're successful, us as a company are successful. Obviously, I'm on the podcast for a reason, Stephanie, because you've had a great experience with us. And it goes to show. So for me personally, I'm a lot like you in this, Stephanie, is I don't refer anybody unless I've used the service and I currently use it, because there's nothing worse than doing a podcast like this and then all of a sudden hearing feedback saying, oh, it wasn't good. It's like, for me, I just don't like that. And I also use my own service. So for me, it's, I could speak confidently that the service works and virtual assistants work because I use it in my business on a daily basis.
Can I share the process that I help the agents I coach go through before reaching out to Reva?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what we do is we call it a time audit. So this is something that a couple of brilliant minds have spoken about. I've read it in a couple of different books, so I don't know where exactly it originated, but it was not with me. But what we do is we put together a spreadsheet. I have a template that I just give them, and it's a Google Sheets spreadsheet. And what they are to do is to track their time with what tasks they're doing in 30-minute increments for 7 days. Nice. And so what happens at the end of that is you have 168 hours worth of tasks, and you can then take those tasks and put them into kind of just spreadsheet form to sort them based on that category or the system or the part of their business they're working in. And then what they can do is have a really just kind of at a glance opportunity to say, this whole swath of stuff, I don't need to be doing this. I hate it anyway. Takes way too much time. I'm not even that good at it. This is the first thing that I want to do. And then they can actually have a book of items that they can take to Reva and say, this is what I need help with. Now, please step in and take it from me. But it's just a really simple way just to get a look at what's taking your time now. Instead of trying to add something, let's just remove it off your plate and give it to someone who's really proficient at taking it on.
And that's great because that goes back to what you said earlier, income producing tasks versus non-income producing tasks. I mean, you ever hear the old saying, one of my buddies, actually, I'm going to use you as on one of my upcoming podcasts and I'm a guest. Is it okay if I quote you on using the time audit sheet?
Yeah.
There you go.
Sure.
I'll promote you. I like it. But I like that because you're 100% right, because you start looking at, and once you do that 30-minute increments for 7 days, then you'll see which tasks are actually producing income and what are not. So it's really good. You know, the old saying is, if you're doing $10 an hour tasks, you'll have a $10 an hour bank account. So that's a good way to look at that.
Yeah, it is, and I think too, I think that you would probably agree. A lot of times, we don't realize how much time something takes. You know, anytime you're starting something or you plan to get something done, I can almost always guarantee it's going to take more time than we think it's going to take, and these tasks will expand to the time allowed, right? And so the other part of having a VA that I wonder if we could speak to is there's almost a level of accountability there, because real estate, there's almost no accountability. You're kind of just flying solo unless you're on one of these power teams that just puts you into a role where you're a cog in a wheel, which is also really like can be fantastic. If that's your disposition as a real estate agent and you want to be told what to do and you're going to do it really well, like that's fantastic. And there are teams for that. But if you are the solo agent or the small but mighty team leader, we don't have a ton of accountability. And so how do you think of that in terms of having a VA just to offer that?
I actually really like the way you put that, because a lot of us, when we are solo, it's tough to be held accountable, right? So, you know, you have your list of things you have to do per day. And this goes back to, it's actually funny, when I was doing more coaching back in the day, I would actually give an agent or an investor a list of tasks they have to do. And then the week later, they didn't do them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, why didn't you do them? Because they didn't have somebody holding them accountable within that time. I'll hold them accountable a week later, but they just wasted a week. So to your point, if you work with a virtual assistant, they'll also be pushing you along and pushing your business along even while you're not there. So I think that is a really, really good point you just made about holding you accountable. Also, one of the things I recommend is, when you do hire your first virtual assistant, have daily huddles, have daily check-ins. Because what we do is we do a start of day report. So they'll send in, right when they check in, a start of day report and the tasks that they're going to do, and an end of day report of what they just accomplished. So it's very, very important to get them on, you know, your weekly meetings, your weekly huddles, because they are truly a part of your team. Doesn't matter if the virtual assistant's in a different country, a different state, a different town. If they're not in your office, we as entrepreneurs have to make them feel like they are part of our company, because they are.
Well, and it's a form of leadership, okay? And I think that's something that gets lost is when you become a real estate agent, you are now a leader. You are a business owner and you are steering the ship, right? The way that you are presenting to your clients or presenting to cross agents, like it's all on you. And that doesn't change when we expand our team or bring someone on. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I was going to ask how often that you feel that communication needs to be taking place.
Yeah.
And you guys have these fantastic built-in tools. I get the daily report every day, like start of day and end of day, which is fantastic. But to be honest, Bob, I don't even look at it half the time because I'm speaking to my admin every single day. And I know what she's getting done because there's a mix of me delegating tasks to her and her bringing needs to me and saying, hey, red flag, this needs to get done. And so there's that just natural collaboration and communication happening constantly. But at the minimum, you're saying daily huddles have to happen. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to, at the end of the day, you'll realize just exactly what you just said. You won't start micromanaging them because you're gonna be working with them on a daily basis, so you know they get done. So that's what I found too. Same thing with me with my VAs. I don't always check the end of day report, but it is there for me to go back to see, hey, are they doing those tasks? But you brought up a great point, because you said, you know, when you're a newer or you're a solo, let's say, agent, everything's on your shoulders. Everything. All the way from prospecting to setting appointments to going on appointments to listing presentations to showings to recruiting calls to bookkeeping to agent recruitment. I mean, everything. It's social media posting. You're talking about everything. And it does get very, very overwhelming if you don't have help.
Yeah. It really does. And no wonder, we have the challenges that we do with so many real estate agents who see massive swings in production from year to year or so beholden to whatever market forces. But when you have the accountability and the structure in place from having a team who's got your back, I feel like that just really makes all the difference.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you're only as good as your team. That's the way I look at it, and I know, Stephanie, you've built multiple companies and are an entrepreneur at that. And I mean, we know that. We look at that and we say, all right, we look at who our team members are. And the better team members we have on our team, the better business owners that we are portrayed. So it's very, very important to get good people on your team. And also, education is part of it, right? Obviously, working with you and your coaching program, you as a coach, you got to look at your mentor as well. Your mentor is successful. You follow the systems and processes that they do on a daily basis. That's very, very important as well.
I couldn't agree more. Bob, I want to be a good steward of your time, but I feel like I could sit here and talk to you for hours about this. Um, for those who are listening and who either want to take the conversation further or just skip the line and skip ahead to Reva, if you're listening to this and you're like, I gotta just make the plunge, I gotta make the hire. I'll have the links in the show notes below so that you can do that. But Bob, if they want to continue the conversation, can you tell them where they might be able to follow along with your story?
Yeah, I mean, I would obviously check out the link because it's everything is sent to your link. That's what I love to
Mhm.
do. But we're also, you can check us out on social media. Like I said, we post a lot of different content on a daily basis. Go to Instagram, go to Facebook. I guess they're probably all the same. Go to where else? Reels. I don't even know what. We're everywhere on LinkedIn as well. I don't believe we do TikTok. I don't listen to TikTok. I don't do that myself, to be honest with you. So I'm not. Who knows if that's going to be gone tomorrow? But check us out anywhere online. And if you have any questions, like I said, Stephanie, your link is definitely the way to go. Again, it's Reva Global.
Okay, cool. Bob, I so appreciate your time today. And I really want to just acknowledge you for having the foresight to see the gap in the need that real estate agents have for having access to incredible support. Reva has been just a huge partner of ours for the last couple of years, and I'm so glad that our paths crossed. So I thank you for putting that all together and making that connection possible, but also I thank you for your time here today on the show.
And thank you for having me. And let's keep in touch for sure. But thank you very much, Stephanie.